It is so dumb, but it's interesting though. I've been reading in about Dr. Seuss.
Oh.
And apparently Dr. Seuss himself was embarrassed by some of the work that he did.
Right, which is funny that never comes up in
It never
any
comes
of
up.
it.
Who do we got here? Here's Kevin McCarthy. They're debating HR1, which is perhaps one of the strongest sort of pro-democracy, if you want to call it that, anti-corruption in government, opening up voting rights bill that I think has been presented by Democrats in decades, by any party in decades. Here's Kevin McCarthy knowing who his base is.
HR1 rewrites election law and imposes a one-size-fits-all partisan rules from Washington. Under the Constitution, we generally defer to states and counties to run elections. Democrats want to change that. First, they outlawed Dr. Seuss, and now they want to tell us what to say.
First off, did we not hear for the past 3 months nothing but complaints about the voting process in all of these various places around the country? Like all of a sudden now he's coming out and saying that states know how to run. They had 80 lawsuits across the country in localities, in states, because supposedly all of these elections were fraudulent and rigged, and the way that they were doing these things were wrong. Why wouldn't you want the opportunity to say, not, one size fits all. It's just, we have a rule. You got to do this when you vote. You got to do that when you vote. And
well, you see, it's the Democrats who want to make it worse. They want to make it even less states' rights. And the problem is that it's not enough county states' rights, even though those counties are wildly incompetent. Like, it's almost like a win-win for them, right?
Well, because they just changed their mind.
Well, no, I mean, they either deregulate voting or just basically rig it so much in favor of white people and Republicans that they get what they want, or they lock Democrats out from ever changing it. And it's so inefficient and convoluted and terrible that they can claim voter fraud every other election for the next many decades. That's kind of their MO.
I should also say, though, however, McCarthy's right. I don't think Congress should have outlawed Dr. Seuss. That was wrong.
That was wrong. What's next, Sam?
Yeah, get your priorities.
I mean, Matt was on Twitter yesterday, a little concerned about what's going to happen to the Hardy Boys.
I know. I'm terrified that the secret tower.
Did you read all those?
No,
I read Nancy Drew.
I got the box set. I read like the first 3 of them.
The Hardy Boys, okay, well, that's just because I'm a girl, but I just like Nancy Drew a lot better. Gotta say.
I read all the Hardy Boys, but only after reading all of the Encyclopedia Browns. So
I love Encyclopedia Browns.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Are you going to be sad? Oh, go.
The fact that they are outlawing Encyclopedia Brown in this COVID relief bill is just absurd.
I know. I mean, they keep changing. Why do they want to take all these Dr. Seuss statues off of federal land? They're tearing them down. They're defacing them. I mean, the left, then they're putting up their Antifa statues.
The way they tore down that Sneetch's statue in Virginia was just completely disrespectful.
Totally.
Very disrespectful.
Let's check out Dave Rubin's boss, Glenn Beck. See if Glenn Beck can do this whole Mr. Potato Head, Dr. Seuss thing a little bit better than Dave Rubin, who gotta probably, I don't know, he's got to practice before he goes on air with this stuff. Here is Glenn Beck bemoaning the loss of freedom in this country because Mr. Potato Head is now just Potato Head.
They have now banned 6 books from Dr. Seuss.
Pause it. They, whoever they are, have not banned anybody. They are the organization that his estate, essentially, that has decided to stop publishing 6 books because of the work that they feel that even Dr. Seuss would have been embarrassed by. One of Mr. Giesel's own family members, this is from a 2017.
This is Dr. Seuss. His pen name was not
Geisel.
Right,
Yeah,
Geisel.
his real name was not Dr. Seuss.
And and there's a Dr. Seuss museum. It's in Springfield. It's not far, Springfield, Mass. And one of Mr. Giesel's own family members who helped curate an exhibit for the museum said that Mr. Giesel would agree. And that is, there are things that, like, Giesel wrote his stuff during World War II sometimes. And we had a horrible chapter in this country where we sent Japanese people to concentration camps. And there was a lot of racism involved in the way that we would portray Japanese people because of the war. And to understand, for instance, Philip Nell, a children's literature scholar at Kansas State University, said, I think to understand Seuss fully, you need to understand the complexity of his career. You need to understand that he's involved in both anti-racism and racism. And I don't think you get that if you omit the political work. They were talking about looking at his stuff in the museum. Dr. Seuss owes it to Japanese Americans. This was people who were complaining about to Japanese Americans and the American people to acknowledge the role that his racist political cartoons played so that this atrocity doesn't happen to minority groups again. And one of Giesel's own family members who helped curate an exhibit for the museum said that Mr. Giesel would agree. I think he would find it a legitimate criticism because I remember talking to him about it at least once and him saying things were done a certain way back then, said Ted Owens, great nephew of Mr. Giesel. Characterizations were done and he was a cartoonist and he tended to adopt those. And I know later in his life, he was not proud of those at all. Mr. Giesel suggested this himself decades after the war. This is Dr. Seuss. In a 1976 interview, he said of his PM cartoons, when I look at them now, they're hardly and embarrassingly badly drawn. They're full of snap judgments and that every political cartoonist has to make. So there were cartoons, representations he made that he would have been embarrassed about. It's Geisel, sorry. And so here is Glenn Beck again, talking about banning. Nothing was banned. They just took it off. They stopped publishing it.
6 books from Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss. You can no longer print these 6 books. If I ran a zoo, and I think I saw it on Mulberry Street, Beyond Zebra, Scrambled Egg Super, The Cat's Quizzer.
Oh, classics.
This according to a panel of educators and experts.
Who's read those?
They are banning.
They're not banning
Dr. Seuss books.
They stopped
How much
them.
more do you need to see before all of America wakes up and goes, this is fascism? This is fascism. You don't destroy books. What is wrong with us, America?
Destroy books.
Go out and buy those books today. Find out if you can get them. Buy Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head because it's the end of an era. It is the end of freedom in America, where you are bullied to the point to where you better not have that book.
I mean, I would recommend going out and buying those too, because they'll probably be, sellable on eBay for,
sell them to some moron right winger.
Yeah, exactly.
Sell them to
a Glenn Beck guy.
Sell them to Glenn Beck fan 123 or whatever.
You could package the Potato Heads and the Dr. Seuss books together as some type of taste of freedom.
Put a Mr. Potato Head in a little Cat in the Hat hat.
Well, and he also says like you can no longer print these books, which actually points to the real cancel culture, which is copyright law, which has been extended far too long. And if it wasn't extended, these would all be public domain, and these people could share PDFs of these dumb books to their heart's content, and their kids could be freed from the 1984 future that this
Yeah.
publishing company is leading them toward.
Well, wasn't that what just happened with Josh Hawley? He was canceled and persecuted by the world because his publisher decided to push off his book into a secondary publisher so they didn't get backlash from the public. Or was that Tom Cotton? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah, obviously
No, that
both
was Hawley.
victims. That was Hawley. I was right. Okay. They're both victims, but it's just like I can't believe we're talking about Dr. Seuss in the pandemic.